Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Gold demand is down everywhere except... well, we're gonna have to explore to find out. Gold. You hear of the word gold today. It's been in the news. We have seen it go up last year to its all-time high in real dollars. And remarkably, because of that, most of us think that demand has probably increased as well. There are bullion companies, dealers, that are having a hard time keeping gold in stock. So why is gold down each year? This shiny metal that comes in so many different forms makes you wonder, why is it down? Well, there's an article on mining.com that talks about this and was sent to me by a member of the community. Global gold demand is at a 13-year low as China buys, but investors are selling. Now that is quite interesting indeed, for sure. And does it surprise you that China is buying all this gold while everybody else is selling, apparently? Global demand for gold in the first quarter of 2021 was stuck near its lowest level since 2008, as heavy selling by investors in Europe and North America offset a revival of consumer buying in Asia, the World Gold Council said on Thursday. Traditionally seen as a safe asset, investors bought gold in unprecedented quantities last year as the coronavirus swept through the world economy. However, lockdowns to contain the pandemic simultaneously collapsed sales of gold jewelry, bars, and coins in countries like China and India that are typically the biggest bullion buyers. Let that sink in as well, because, they do buy a lot of jewelry in those places, but as well as bullion products too. And here we can see from this chart that consumer demand for the world's two biggest gold markets is recovering, and we can see how much they suffered over the past year here, but they're starting to rebound very quickly to almost at the pre-pandemic levels. The dynamic is now reversing as the global economy recovers, with investors unwinding some of their positions and consumers in Asia returning to the market. Global demand amounted to 815.7 tons over January through March, up slightly from 813.7 tons in October through December of last year, but down 23% from the first quarter of 2020, the World Gold Council said in its latest quarterly report. Consumer demand in China, typically the biggest market, rebounded spectacularly to 286.4 tons, the most since the first quarter of 2017, the World Gold Council said. And here is global demand here, and we can see what's been going on here. It's been down, and it's down in these quarters here, heading out. You can see it just moving down in that sloping pattern here since the first quarter of 2020. ETFs storing gold mostly for the large Western investors unloaded 177.9 tons, which is their largest disinvestment since the fourth quarter of 2013. That selling dragged gold prices from a record high of $2,072.50 an ounce in August to around $1,700 in March. So I think that it's interesting. I'm just now hearing this. But of course, again, we really don't hear these reports until we see, people like that do the research at World Gold Council about this that help push these prices down. Obviously the dollar strength is playing a role too. And perhaps because of that, some people that were holding those positions decided to sell. It did spur demand from Asian buyers who are often deterred by high prices, World Gold Council said. ETF selling has slowed sharply in April, and gold prices have pushed back towards $1,800 And the World Gold Council analyst Christian Gopal said both consumer and investment demand would likely remain solid this year, though below recent peaks. Central banks in the first quarter bought 95.5 tons of gold, the most since the second quarter of 2020, but significantly less than was typical during 2018 and 2019. Then, from the same site, we see here that China's first quarter gold consumption has jumped 93.9% year on year on robust demand. So, it's always good. As an anonymous member told me, pay attention when the big nations are buying. China's gold consumption soared 93.9% in the first 3 months from the same quarter a year earlier, recovering to pre-pandemic levels, fueled by strong demand for gold jewelries and rising investment, the China Gold Association said on Friday. Consumption in China in the first quarter stood at 288.2 tons compared with 148.63 tons a year ago, the association said in a statement on its website. The rise came as spending for gold jewelry picked up quickly during China's Lunar New Year holidays and Valentine's Day, said the association. Keep in mind that gold is entrenched in the Eastern cultures, in India and China especially. And it's not so much over here in the West. But I do believe, gold is one of those metals that is the ultimate store of wealth. And I'm certainly bullish on it, and I keep buying it when I can. And I think it's good to have some in the physical form for sure. It kind of doesn't surprise me that some ETF holders were spooked on the prices and decided to sell. But I think it's a different methodology with those who hold exchange traded products compared to those who hold the physical. But again, nothing wrong with buying it in that form. But usually when people do that, they're not holding it in order to necessarily have them hold the physical. They want it as a hedge against their stock holdings in other areas. But I believe that even those people would be incumbent upon them to actually hold a little bit of the physical as well. Because I believe that ultimately you really don't own it until you actually have it in your hand. You don't own it until you hold it. To me, that's crucial. But nonetheless, recovery in macro economy and falling gold prices have extended enthusiasm towards gold investment. And the Chinese are smart in that way. They buy it when it's low. Adding that demand for industrial use as gold increases well. And the spot gold prices has fell 6.6% so far this year. A World Gold Council official said on Thursday that China's gold demand is seen to log a positive growth this year if there are no dramatic changes to the global economy and geopolitical situation. China's gold output, however, fell 9.92% to 74.44 tons in the January-March period from a year earlier, data from the association showed. The country's eastern Shandong province reported 2 gold mine accidents earlier this year, leading to production suspension for safety inspections, which is the major reason for production decline, said the association. Gold output at major producers, including China Gold, Shandong Gold Mining, Jing Mining, and Shizhongjing Group, were at 30.78 tons in the first quarter, lifting their proportion to 52.25% among national production, the Gold Association said. A lot of us get pretty upset with China. Well, not necessarily the Chinese people, because we know that there's a lot of good Chinese folks, but the government themselves, they're really blurry when it comes to being transparent, for sure. But one thing is for sure, to come into clear vision of gold, most of the Chinese people do understand the value of gold. Even if it's ingrained in their culture, they know it has value. And so they continue to accumulate it and buy it. And I believe in many ways, for those of us here in the West, and specifically the United States, we can learn a lesson from the Chinese in that regard. And we have a former U.S. Mint director who certainly understands as a direct descendant of Chinese immigrants. He knows full well the value of gold. His mother used her gold bracelet, I believe, to help escape China. or some sort of oppression. I don't know the exact story there, but certainly fascinating story. The value of gold and the role it plays in so many different areas. It is the one metal, especially that not only do nations of the world that have varying different political and ideological philosophies, they all understand the value of gold and they hold it in their central banks. People know about it, and the nations of the world, most of the people in the nations of the world understand gold's value. And even here in the United States, with everything else that we live in a 15 seconds of fame society. We live in everything is on the go. Everything is NFT, non-fungible tokens. But you know what? There's something about the tangible that is undeniable, cannot be replaced, and it is something that gold is one of those metals that stands the test of time and will always be in fashion, one way or the other. There's no way they can squash it out. There's no way they can stop it from being what it is. Don't care how glamorous a certain stock or cryptocurrency is. And I'm not knocking any of those things. I believe in people being diversified. There's nothing wrong with owning any of those things. I think smart investors are also smart hedgers as well. And what better way to hedge against the instability of the economic system for which we take part than with gold? And silver too, but especially gold, because all these nations understand it and utilize it and hold it and see the value in it. I believe we can do. When the big nations make moves into consuming and buying gold, we should pay attention. That's for sure. So again, I want to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't done so already, hit that notification bell so that you can be apprised of the latest video that comes your way. And I want to encourage you to please rate this video as well. Share it amongst the community or on other social media platforms. Comment and subscribe.